Welcome to show number 14, Ask a Trucking Recruiter. I'm Indiana Jack. We're not going to be a trucking show anymore. We're going to be a show about diets, a show about food, health, and nutrition. And I'm just joking. We will never abandon talking about trucks, because why you want to talk about trucks and truck driving. But we are going to make an exception this week, because the theme of this show, or the theme of my life, and I get so many inquiries privately about weight loss, being fat truck drivers, all of those things, that I think that I should address this. And for the first time, I'm going to share with you personal things about my life and weight loss, because I want to be as open and honest with you as I can. Even though in my 10 years on YouTube talking about trucking, I've never shared personal things. This is the exception, because everyone is talking about weight loss. Everyone is talking about the things that I just mentioned, truckers being 100 pounds overweight. It's on every station, so we're just going to dedicate one show about it, and you can send messages and questions about it, along with your questions right here on Ask a Trucking Recruiter, who has been through everything that we talk about here on the show for the most part. I am here to help you. They say never talk about, like when you're with your family or acquaintances, never talk about religion, never talk about politics, and never talk about diets. I added the diet one on there just because I don't think you should talk about diets. Maybe we should, but when you sit down with your family at Thanksgiving dinner, do you talk about diets? Maybe Aunt Tilda brings it up. Before we begin, I just want you to remember about our sponsors. They're an important part of this show. Of course, DAT Solutions. If you want to find a load fast, and so many loads that you cannot believe how many loads are on that load board, the biggest load board in the world, DAT Solutions. Sign up today with the link that I will provide below, and it's 1 month free. And tell them that Indiana Jack sent you. Also, our friends at Traveloko. One of the things that I used to like about driving for Traveloko is because I could pick my own loads, and that's certainly why they are an advertiser here on this show. I was so tired of dispatchers and planners telling me where I had to go. With Traveloko, you get to tell everyone where you want to go. As long as the load's on DAT Solutions, you can go there if you drive for Traveloko, home of 85%, our friends there. Let's talk about diets. Oh boy, food. I'm just going to tell you some things that happened to me as far as diets and food goes, and maybe it will help you just by learning what has happened to someone else and what I'm struggling with now. Probably the impetus for this show is what I'm going to share right now. I had always been overweight. The first big diet that I ever went on was back in the 78. In LA, it was called Chic Center, and they guaranteed weight loss there. I think later they had to change that, but Chic Center was, you go to this group therapy, then you break off into these little rooms with a counselor. They actually hook up electrodes to you. This happened to me back in the 70s. They hook electrodes to your arms, fingers, legs, everything. Just like on the episode of The Simpsons, Have you ever seen that where they're all hooked up to electrodes and they shock each other when they talk about each other? It was like that. So because I needed to lose weight so bad, I went and did that. I called up Schick Center, went in there, went through the whole process, got a counselor, went in the room, got hooked up to the electrodes. You had to bring with you your favorite food. And the counselor would say, shove as much of that food in your mouth as you can and eat, but you cannot swallow. While you are eating and shoving that in your mouth, he is shocking you with those electrodes, and you're like, zzz, zzz, zzz. And your brain is saying, bad, bad, bad. And while he's doing that, he's not talking about how delicious the food is. He's talking about warm vomit, green baby poop, all kind of nasty stuff, so that your brain is associating the taste of that food to all these negative things that are happening to you. And I will say that I lost 150 pounds on that diet. And I probably looked normal in 1980 for the first time in a long time. So it did work. It was a few $1,000, and that was a lot of money for me in those days as a kid. That was the first diet I went on. And I'm bringing you through the progression of all of the different diets that I went on. And yes, we're going to talk about how I lost 300 pounds on one of my diets. In fact, let's talk about that right now. Fast forward 20 years from the Schick Center diet. I met several people in my life that were key people, one being a young lady. She would cook for me. I had gained my weight back, by the way. In fact, I had gained even more back. So now I was like Blimp City. But she was willing to move in with me and cooked. She even had kids. We put a swimming pool in the backyard. I began to be active. I had another buddy, a guy named Richard Kiesling, who said, Jack, well, I think this would help you. One, why don't you come over to my house and we'll walk around a football stadium, around a track. And I did. Go over there 3 times a week. He was willing to donate his time to me to do that. So all of those changes, plus a software package that he bought me called Health and Diet Pro. And this was when computers were just starting out. I wasn't really computer literate. I had one program called Quicken. And Quicken helped me with my finances. So I equated that with maybe a software program could help me with my eating. I would input everything that I ate into that computer, Health and Diet Pro. And sure enough, I lost 300 pounds doing that combination of things, eating healthy, being active, and using that software program, Health and Diet Pro. It was called. Later, I bought the rights to distribute that software because I had lost so much weight and doing so well. The people who owned that software licensed me to sell it. One more thing about Richard Kiesling, and it taught me a lesson for my whole life. He insisted one of the nights that I went running with him or walking, he insisted that I go running around the track instead of just walking. And I did that, and I got blood clots because of it. I was still too big to run. So don't ever do something that a friend insists that you do because they think it's best. You know what your body can do, right? And I knew I shouldn't have been doing it, but boy, my legs turned fire engine red as this shirt. And the next day I went to the hospital, and sure enough, I had blood clots and all kind of problems. And but I lost 300 pounds. I'll put pictures up. The media got a hold of it, and I was on all kind of shows. I was on the 700 Club. I was in the National Enquirer. I was in all the local news shows. And it was an exciting time in my life. That period of time of being someone who weighed 300 pounds overweight. You know, this show is driven by your questions. In fact, that's why we're doing this diet show, I'll call it, is because of questions that you have written in over the years. But the questions that come in now are truck related, so we will pepper in some questions rather than just talking about diets the whole time, because I don't have enough diet questions. Feel free to write them in if you want, and we'll do that in future shows. But we'll never dedicate a show again to nothing but health and diet. I'm just not educated enough to carry a show about that, even though I've been on lots of diets. Never take recommendations from someone that's overweight. That's all I'll say on that. Antiqua writes, regarding your show on immigration, oh no, overweight people now to immigration. When an illegal immigrant crosses the border, where do they work? I don't have a clue. I can relate a story. I used to work for Vans Tennis Shoes back in the 70s. And we had 2 or 3 sewing rooms in Anaheim, California that were all illegal aliens. And once a quarter, the immigration vans would pull up there and someone on the microphone would yell immigration and the whole room would scatter. But I don't know how those people found those sewing room jobs to work for. And now I assume that illegal immigrants are picking our fruit, our vegetables, doing our gardening, things that Americans won't do. And yes, in some cases, trucking. Although you can't be illegal and be a truck driver here that I know of. But we won't get into that. But thank you for writing that question regarding our show on immigration that we did a few weeks ago right here on Ask a Trucking Recruiter. I'm Indiana Jack. And let's continue on with our show about losing weight, the history and what I've been through, and how it relates to trucking and bringing you up to the modern day and where we are now. Fast forward another 10 years, I gained most of that weight back, most of that 300 pounds back. I was faced with another dilemma, and I had a really good doctor in Huntington Beach. I said, Dr. Besley, what do I do? And he said, you know, Jack, he says, you don't see many people your size in nursing homes. And I got to thinking, well, he's right. Everyone in a nursing home is just a skinny old lady. People overweight, men I'll say in this case, don't live long enough to go into the nursing home phase. Not that I want to go there, but he just felt that it's time that, again, that I took drastic measures to do something about my weight. Otherwise, that would be it for me. I would be not having a life after that. So he recommended gastric bypass. And in those days, I had really good insurance, when insurance really meant something. Now it's just like they pay pennies on the dollar and that's it. Even the good insurance plans, it's ridiculous. They don't pay anything. But that's we'll never do a show about that. I'll talk about it on occasion. But he encouraged me to do the gastric bypass surgery back in 2005, June 1st. And I did it, and it was a positive influence on me. To this day, I cannot eat a full meal like what you guys would eat. You know, you go out with your friends, or your wife, your girlfriend, whoever. You have an appetizer, you have a meal, and you have a dessert. I can't even come close to eating that. Not even close. I can eat maybe the steak and the potatoes, and that's it. No appetizer, no dessert. And I'm so full at that point. But yes, I lost a lot of weight on that. A lot of people said I looked too skinny at that point. But I did really well on gastric bypass, and it changed my life entirely forever, and still has. Okay, question number 2, answering your questions about truck driving here on Ask a Trucking Recruiter. Michael writes, how much weight can go on an axle of a truck? I will just tell you what is in the biggest majority of cases and states. There are exceptions, but in this case, the majority, 12,000 on the steers, 34,000 on the drives, 34,000 on the trailer. There's exceptions. For instance, in Florida, they don't have that per se. So it just depends on the state you're driving in, but that's the basic rule there. Thank you, Michael, for writing in. I appreciate your questions right here on Ask a Trucking Recruiter, where we don't talk about just recruiting. We talk about trucks in general, all things trucking, and anything with 18 wheels underneath it. One of the diets I used to go on occasion and was successful back in the 70s was the cabbage soup diet. And it was the Seventh-day Adventist diet. It was real popular. You could eat all the cabbage soup you wanted, and I would honestly lose 30 to 40 pounds a month on that diet. Now, just recently, I've tried that diet again because I kind of want to start doing this again. I need to. I did that for a month and did not lose any weight, maybe a pound. And that's eating nothing but vegetables. So I figured, well, something's wrong. Well, how could I eat nothing but cabbage soup for a month and not lose weight? Except for one day a week, I do eat hamburgers and donuts around the office. My favorite day of the week. So that diet, for me, doesn't work. How does this all relate to you as a truck driver? Well, we all have talked about over the years and still do. Every truck driver that you see at a truck stop is about 100 pounds overweight. Not everyone, but many of them. I used to blame being overweight to being a truck driver, but that's not true. You can't blame the truck stops. It's what you eat at the truck stop. But and that's how it relates to you. And let's bring this up to right now, okay? Because the cabbage soup diet didn't work for me, I've already had gastric bypass. I decided to do the good old calorie counting again with a software program like I had done way back 20 years ago. And that's what I'm doing now, but I'm still not losing any weight. I'm eating 1,200 calories, Scout's Honor, 1,200 calories a day, and I don't lose any weight. How can that be? So I called up my buddy, his wife's a nurse, and I told him, and he turns around and asks his wife, and she said, well, Jack's body is in starvation mode. It's like a gear on your truck, you know? Your body goes into starvation gear, a downshift, and it won't lose weight because it's holding on to those calories and that nutrition because it thinks that it's dying. So it holds, you will never lose weight. So I didn't want to hear her. I didn't want to hear my buddy Steve, him and his wife. I didn't want to hear that. So I called up my nephew, a nutritionist. Surely he knows. I said, Scotty, I'm only eating 1,200 calories a day. I can't lose a pound. How can that be? That's almost eating nothing. The average man eats 2,000 calories a day. I am eating 1,200 and I'm not losing weight. And he said, Uncle Jack, you're in starvation mode. So he's talking about that gear again. Downshift. So I need to accept that now that I can't do the metabolism in my body is such that I can't do those instant diets anymore. And I've Googled starvation mode, and no one really gives a clear picture of how to get out of it. There's not a secret way to do it. And as a lot of you know, I'm a faithful follower of Kevin Rutherford, who is becoming not just a trucking guru, but a diet guru. And he proclaims the keto diet, which is high protein, very few carbohydrates, no sugar. And he says if you do that, you will lose weight. He didn't tell me that personally, but because I listen to his show, that's what he says. So I'm faced with that crossroad now. Do I do keto 100%? I'm at 90% keto anyway. This program that I'm using now, Fitness Pal, I mean, I really watch everything I eat, and I am in high protein, low carbs, almost no sugar except one day a week. But I gotta find a way, and maybe this is where you guys come into the picture, because you are experts at everything on YouTube, right? All you listeners know everything. You can solve everything in the world. So I'm looking for your comments. Have you ever been in starvation mode? Are you in starvation mode now? Are you on the Kevin Rutherford diet of keto? It's not just Kevin Rutherford that's doing keto. It's the world that's doing keto right now. How do I get out of starvation mode? I really don't know. I don't want to be a show about defeat, a show about unanswered questions, but how can a man of my size eat 1,200 calories and not lose any weight? I don't want to do what I did with Richard Kiesling and go out there and run and get blood clots again. So it's a touchy subject. Question number 3, Rand writes, based on your show last week about buying a truck for the first time, is there a lemon law when buying a truck? There probably is a lemon law when buying a brand new truck, but I never talked to you in this show about buying a brand new truck, which is covered under warranty and everything. I assume a truck would be covered under a lemon law, just like a car is. It depends on your state and things like that. But I don't know 100% saying, yes, there's a lemon law on trucks. I'm sure some of you experts will know. I don't know. I won't do any more shows about diets, as I said earlier. I'm just presenting this to you, opening up my heart, sharing something personal with you. The first time that I've ever done this is talk about my personal life on my show. If you're offended or you hate personal stuff, tell me below, and I won't do personal things before, although I get so many questions of people wanting me to share personal things. So this is like putting my foot in the water. Should I share something personal? Help me out. I'm at a crossroads. Help me. I'm asking you to help me. If I've helped you over at all in the past 10 years on YouTube, maybe you can help me with some ideas of how to do this and get over this hump of being in starvation mode. And do me a favor, please. If you like this show, like, share, and subscribe with your friends, where we talk about trucks, not diets, trucks. I'm Indiana Jack. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week at noon here, Eastern Time, noon, right here on Ask a Trucking Recruiter. See you then.